Good morning, everyone, and welcome. And thank you, everyone, for being here today. It's such an honor to be with everyone this morning. My name is Daria Allen-Ebron, and I am the CEO for Kindle Communities, a nonprofit and socially responsible landlord based here in Guelph. I'd like to begin with an acknowledgement that we stand on the ancestral homelands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Métis peoples. We recognize that we are situated on Treaty 3 between the Lakes of Purchase Territory, the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. And it's such an honor and such a privilege to work in Guelph. We really do exemplify partnership and collaboration in service of others. Prime Minister Trudeau, MP Longfield, Mayor Guthrie, we can't wait to show off 10 Shelldale, a permanent supportive housing project that is nearly ready to open its doors to provide homes to 32 people. Through our healthcare partners, the Guelph Community Health Center and Stonehenge Therapeutic Community, tenants will get the support they need to maintain housing stability. We do partnership well in Guelph. We are fortunate that this project has broad community support, including the Government of Canada through MP Lloyd Longfield, our local provincial representatives, the City of Guelph, the County of Wellington, the Home for Good campaign, the private sector, including Skyline Group of Companies, service providers, the Ontario Health Team, regional hospitals, the Kindle Board, and our community advisors, and the entire construction team here. 10 Shelldale will be the third permanent supportive housing project to open in the City of Guelph within a year. We are so proud to join valued community partners, Stepping Stone and Wyndham House, who opened their buildings in 2023. MP Longfield, thank you for your ongoing advocacy every step of the way. I am delighted to pass the podium to you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Darian. I'm really proud to be part of the team that Guelph is. A team that puts projects like this together and really works with the people who will be benefiting from the projects, people that have had experience and know what they need in order to have a better, fuller, richer life. And Guelph doing these things for 25 years at this site, and now having this through the help of other partners like Skyline and Shelldale, Kindle, and the others that are here today. But it's my great pleasure to have the Prime Minister in Guelph again for the second time this year. And he could be in any other riding in Canada, but here he is in Guelph. So really appreciate you and your team bringing you here today to see even more real world results of the investments that the Government of Canada is making, and really through the vision of the Prime Minister of, we know we have to have different types of solutions because we have different needs. We've got a suite of supports that we've been using, from co-investment funds to reaching home strategy to working on projects like this. And then the announcement the Prime Minister will be making shortly on how we're even going to move further into housing in Guelph and across Canada. So Prime Minister, wonderful to have you in Guelph. Usually we see each other in Ottawa, but I really like the days that you're here in my riding, in my town.
Thank you, Lloyd, for your introduction, but thank you also for the extraordinary work you do here in Guelph to represent the community, but also the work you do in Ottawa, making sure their voices are heard very clearly in Canada's Parliament. Thanks also for your commitment to housing. It really is something that as we move forward as a government and a more active partner on housing, voices like yours within our caucus have kept us focusing on the real needs of the communities that we're serving right across the country. Daria, thank you for your leadership, and through you, all the different community partners that have been exceptional in coming together to create supportive housing like this, to support people who are in extremely vulnerable situations, moving towards greater independence, greater self-sufficiency, and on a path to be able to contribute fully to the communities that they are part of. And I want to thank you, and I want to thank all the different organizations and individuals who've been working so hard to make such a difference here in Guelph and in cities and communities like it right across the country. Cam, Mayor Guthrie, what a pleasure to see you again, and it is a bit of a full circle that we launched last spring, the Housing Accelerator Fund, with a big announcement here in Guelph beside you, Cam, and being able to highlight today with our first my first big announcement of 2024 that we have agreed and are moving forward on that Housing Accelerator investment for Guelph is a really, really good and big thing. We know people have faced significant challenges right across the country in terms of housing, and as a government we've stepped up over the past many, many years with the National Housing Strategy that helped lead towards the investments that built this place. Our partnerships on initiatives like Reaching Home and combating homelessness, which we've made significant investments and increases to over the past years, are all part of understanding that housing doesn't have a one-size-fits-all solution. There are many different things and measures that we've put forward to support on housing, whether it's a first-time home buyer's savings account that has allowed hundreds of thousands of families to save up for a down payment in their first home, whether it's initiatives like the rapid housing strategy that converted homes and created homes quickly during the pandemic and beyond, or whether it's initiatives like the Reaching Home program to combat homelessness, or the Housing Accelerator. But the Housing Accelerator is a particular program that really came together because we listened and we looked at, even with all the investments we've been making over the past years in housing, there was a need to do more. So we sat down with community leaders and mayors like Cam right across the country to talk about what the barriers were. Why wasn't Canada building enough housing quickly for our growing population? And it came down to obviously many, many different factors. There was a need for greater densification. There's a need for ability to shift zoning more rapidly. There is a need to look at red tape and how we can accelerate processes within municipal structures. And all that needed investments and support so that municipalities and councils could actually tackle the big changes, the structural changes in processes and zoning and densification that would lead to unlocking the housing needs that we had to meet in the coming years. So that's where we put forward $4 billion Housing Accelerator Fund to do just that. And we have been working with now 20 cities across the country that have signed the Housing Accelerator agreements that reward cities that have been forward-thinking, ambitious, willing to challenge the way things used to be done, willing to challenge NIMBYism, and get things done to grow communities and to meet the needs of the future. And that's exactly what this has been about. Le Fonds pour l'accélération du logement est là pour créer plus de maisons plus rapidement à travers le pays. On a su s'attaquer aux enjeux de densification, aux enjeux de zonage, à la bureaucratie qui ralentit les processus, à toutes sortes de défis auxquels les municipalités faisaient face dans la construction de logements plus rapidement. Et avec ces investissements de 4 milliards de dollars à travers le pays, on a pu et on va débloquer des centaines de milliers de nouvelles unités au cours des prochaines années. Here in Guelph, we're talking about 750 new units minimum over the coming few years, and over the next 10 years, close to 10,000 new units that we can project. But the reality is, as we change the way things are built in communities like this, right across the country, we get to see more and more unlocked in meaningful ways to meet the challenges of the future. That's what this is all about, recognizing that partnerships across orders of government, leaning on ambitious and visionary local leaders, from municipal leaders like him to all the great community organizations who've been working, particularly here in Guelph, for decades to solve some really challenging and persistent problems faced by so many citizens. This is what it's all about. It's getting things done in concrete ways that are going to help people. C'est notre engagement auprès des Canadiens de reconnaître que oui, on est en train de vivre des moments difficiles à travers le monde et ici au Canada. Mais on a les solutions quand on travaille ensemble, quand on collabore, quand on fait les investissements ciblés nécessaires pour débloquer les processus et la croissance dont on a besoin. On va continuer de bâtir un pays meilleur pour tous. We know that the promise of Canada is under threat. That promise that every generation can stand on the shoulders of generations before and succeed even more. Well, people are worried that that might not hold. And what we're focusing on is securing that promise of Canada, making sure that we see the best possible future for next generations while we build a strong economy that works for all Canadians at the same time. Canada is the best country in the world. We're going to keep working together to make it even better. With that, I'm very pleased to introduce my friend and yours, the Mayor of Guelph, Cam Guthrie. Cam.
Well, thank you so much, Prime Minister, to you. Thank you so much for you coming back to Guelph. This is a Happy New Year celebration for our city. And to you, Lloyd, thank you so much for your leadership, Daria, and everyone else in this room. And those that may not be here as well, I want to give a huge thank you to everyone. Specifically, I want to thank, obviously, yourself, Prime Minister, but also Minister Sean Fraser. And I also want to just give a shout out to the Canadian Mortgage Housing Corporation as well. That collaboration really helped us land this announcement for our city today. And also, it's my job to make sure that I always recognize those that made this really possible behind the scenes. And they are our staff. I want to start with them. I want to start with our CAO, Scott Stewart, Jody Sales, Kim Krawchuk, Kushla Matthews, Jody Sales. These are people inside City Hall that are working so tirelessly to get these applications and get the information together so that an announcement like today is successful. So I really want to acknowledge them. And of course, my council colleagues as well for bringing this announcement here to Guelph. As the Prime Minister said, we're looking at unlocking an additional almost 750 new units that are dearly needed within our community. And this is going to help unlock these additional units further, not just of the 750, but further thousands of units because of the structural changes that we'll be making inside City Hall to make processes faster, to make policy decisions come quicker, to have infrastructure lined up and ready to go so that housing can get built faster. We all know we need it, and this is the program that is really going to help unlock that for our community, just as it is already being shown to have such success across our country with the other announcements that have taken place already. It is $21.4 million that we are going to be getting from the Housing Accelerator Fund, and I could not be more thrilled to be here today for that announcement. Prime Minister, I'm going to just give you a little bit of a story down memory lane. When I was first mayor about 10 years ago, I was with the Ontario Big City Mayors Caucus, and I met you for the first time up in Ottawa. And I remember you as well were newer, and you came into the room, and you sat down with the mayors, and you said, the people that have been missing around the table is municipalities. Municipalities need to be at the table with the federal government. And let me tell you, the federal government, under your leadership, has done that day in and day out for years. And today's announcement is just proof again that the federal government is at the table with municipalities like ours and like others across this country, making things happen. That is exactly what municipalities need. You have been that partner, and I can't wait to see what you're going to do, not just here, but across the country with more announcements to come. So thank you very much for coming to Guelph. I really, really appreciate it.
Nous allons maintenant commencer avec les périodes des questions. La première question est adressée à Nancy. La parole est à vous.
Avec Radio-Canada, oui. Par rapport au Yémen, j'aimerais que vous nous expliquiez comment ça se fait que le Canada a fourni une assistance militaire pour des frappes menées par les États-Unis et le Royaume-Uni sans qu'il y ait de consultation avec le Parlement. Comment ça se fait? Est-ce que c'est approprié?
Tout d'abord, les attaques des Houthis contre le transport maritime civil et commercial dans la mer Rouge étaient absolument inacceptables et dangereuses. Et contre non seulement la loi internationale, la Charte des Nations Unies, mais contre aussi des résolutions prises par le Conseil de sécurité des Nations Unies pour protéger le transport commercial de biens, de denrées, d'aide humanitaire dans cette région. Donc c'était extrêmement grave que les Houthis s'attaquent aux voies maritimes civiles et commerciales. Donc, des membres de la communauté internationale, dont le Canada et d'autres, se sont engagés à assurer la protection de cette région-là. Le Canada appuie ce que les États-Unis et le Royaume-Uni ont fait. Nous avions été présents avec des effectifs de personnel au niveau de la planification, mais nous n'avons pas offert d'aide ou de ressources opérationnelles pour les frappes qui étaient très ciblées et qui étaient conçues dans le but d'empêcher les Houthis de continuer de frapper contre les voies maritimes.
English, please.
The strikes by Houthi militia on maritime traffic, on civilian and commercial vessels, are absolutely unacceptable. They're contrary to international law, they're contrary to the UN Charter. They go against very specific UN Security Council resolutions ensuring protection of traffic in the Red Sea and in the region. That's why a number of international actors, including Canada, were deeply concerned by these continued attacks on commercial and civilian traffic. The United States and the United Kingdom have engaged in precision strikes to degrade the Houthis' capacity to continue to violate international law, the UN Charter, and go against very specific UN Security Council resolutions. And we have been there in a supportive role. There are Canadian military involved in some of the Canadian military members involved in some of the planning, but we did not have any operational assets involved in the precision strikes.
Vous avez expliqué la position du Canada, c'est bien, ça ne répond pas à ma question sur la nécessité de consulter les parlementaires. Ça fait des semaines qu'on dit qu'on crée un embrasement du conflit. Là, le Canada participe, oui, pas de manière directe, puis on n'a pas cru bon de consulter la population canadienne via les parlementaires?
Le Canada est depuis longtemps un pays qui se tient debout pour la règle de droit et a la responsabilité d'agir pour protéger les civils et les intérêts de la règle du droit à travers le monde. Nous avons agi à l'intérieur de nos autorités.
Sans consulter les parlementaires.
Nous avons agi à l'intérieur de nos autorités.
English, please.
Canada has long stood up for the rule of law and is actively engaged in exactly that around the world in many different ways. We will continue to take the necessary actions and engage in responsible ways in ensuring that the world is a safer place.
Next question.
Prime Minister, Ken Hashizunic from CJOI and Global News. I just want to ask you a question about what's Canada told its coalition partners about any red lines it may have in terms of military activity or escalation that Canada will not support?
We've had obviously many conversations at the officials and at the leadership level on the importance of protecting the international rules-based order. We all have real concerns about the escalation that the Houthis have demonstrated in attacking civilian and commercial vessels in the region. We ensured, and we worked as all our partners did, ensured that the targets and the strikes were as precise and specific as possible in terms of degrading the Houthi military capacity to continue to attack and interdict commercial traffic in the Red Sea that is carrying humanitarian and important economic goods for the world.
En français?
Nous avons toujours travaillé pour s'assurer que les cibles soient très précises et responsables face à cette escalation des Houthis.
Hello, Mr. Prime Minister. Mark Perry from GuelphToday.com. Just back on the housing topic, of course, you know, a lot of this announcement, it seems like it's more just to eliminate the red tape and a lot of that stuff just maybe at the City Hall level. I'm curious about the labor. Do you feel like that's going to be a barrier in achieving the goals that you're looking to achieve with the Accelerator Fund and as well as, you know, trying to get a lot of these houses toward the targets, of course?
Well, first of all, we recognize there is no one thing that is a magic solution on housing. It takes a multi-layered approach. Even as we're announcing the signing of the Housing Accelerator Fund, we're not doing that in an empty field. We're doing that in a building that federal funding flowed to years ago to be able to create concrete solutions. So it's about announcing and it's about moving forward on simplifying and supporting municipalities as they look to be even more ambitious in what they're doing. But we're going to look at all aspects of the barriers that are slowing down or interfering with the need to meet the growth that Canada and communities like Guelph are facing. Yes, construction workers and availability of labor is a challenge we're facing, which is why we continue to have ambitious immigration targets, why we continue to make sure that we see the growth of Canada as a good thing as we welcome people around the world, but we need to do it in such ways that we are able to get them into the kinds of jobs where things are needed and solving the challenge that we're facing.
Cool, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next question.
Hello. What is Canada's position on South Africa's case at the ICJ on Israel committing genocide in Gaza?
Canada has long been a tremendous supporter of the international rules-based order, and processes and structures that have been put in place over the past decades to be able to actually ensure that international law is respected and enforced. And the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, is a key part of that. Canada right now is directly engaged in at least 5 different cases at the ICJ because we believe in the importance of that as an institution. But our wholehearted support of the ICJ and its processes does not mean that we support the premise of the case brought forward by South Africa. We will continue to follow closely. The first phase of the ICJ hearings actually just ended hours ago with Israel completing its submission, and I can assure you there will be a ministerial statement in the coming hours laying out in detail Canada's position.
En français?
La première étape du processus devant la Cour internationale de la justice vient juste de conclure il y a quelques heures avec l'Israël mettant de l'avant sa position. Et donc, je peux vous assurer qu'on va avoir une déclaration complète au niveau ministériel sur la Cour internationale de la justice et cette situation dans les heures à venir. Mais je peux vous dire que le Canada, depuis des années, est l'un des plus ardents défenseurs du système international fondé sur les règles et des institutions qui y sont importantes, incluant la Cour internationale de la justice. Nous allons toujours appuyer le travail qu'ils font parce que c'est très important pour le monde. En même temps, notre appui du processus et de l'institution de la Cour internationale de la justice n'implique pas que nous appuyons la prémisse de la question posée par l'Afrique du Sud. Bien sûr, nous allons suivre de proche les développements à la Cour internationale de la justice.
Thank you. Next question. What kind of funding can the federal government provide for municipalities to help people who are on the streets right now, especially as temperatures drop?
We have invested millions and millions of dollars in fighting homelessness across the country with our Reaching Home program, where we recently doubled and into the billions of dollars our investments in fighting homelessness and supporting people who are the most vulnerable. But again, like any problem we're facing, there is no one simple way to do it. We've invested about $59 million over the past years through our national housing strategy here in Guelph, and a number of those investments have headed towards initiatives that have helped counter homelessness. We've specifically stepped up with $8 million for Guelph on fighting homelessness. The investments we've facilitated that have led to buildings like this are part of it, but we know there's more to do. But as a government, we are committed to ending chronic homelessness, and we have been acting in that way and investing in partnership with not just municipalities, but the incredible community organizations that have been on the front lines of not just solving homelessness by putting people in units, but by creating the wraparound services, from health services to counseling to help with job searches, with all the kinds of things that provide solutions to restore dignity to individuals, to see them be able to envisage a future in which they are active determinants of what they want their world to be.
Next question.
Thank you. I'm Adam Donaldson from Guelph Politico. I'd like to follow up on her question, actually, because we're all here aware of the federal funds that have come in to support programs. That's not ongoing. And it seems that there's programs like the name here in Guelph that get started, are successful, are having an impact, and then they have to go search for funds. So what responsibility does the federal government have to make sure there are ongoing funds for these programs?
That's a really great question, and it folds back a little bit, unfortunately, into constitutional divisions of power. The federal government can and will and has been there to invest in capital projects, to allow places like this to be built, and sometimes be able to sort of start the work they're doing. But ongoing operational funding for whether it's health services or community counseling services or supportive programs to help people often need to come from, or often do come from, the provincial level as well. And that's where all orders of government need to work together. And I can tell you that the City of Guelph has consistently stepped up with supports, with in-kind supports, with programs to be there on the front lines helping the most vulnerable. The federal government has continually, even though it's stretching outside of our strict constitutional mandate, been there to invest in shelters, to invest in programs that are helping people. We do need the province to step up a little bit more, and we're always there to work with them as they do.
Okay, like the mayor, I also want to take a walk down memory lane for a minute. In 2015, you made a campaign promise. It was going to be the last election with first past the post. A lot of people in Guelph here took you at your word. I know there's efforts on Parliament Hill to try and revisit that. Is it time for you to revisit your promise?
I am deeply committed to the idea of electoral reform. I think citizens being able to rank their choices, say my first choice is this party, but my second choice is that party, prevents them from having to vote against the ones they don't want and instead vote for the ones they do. I've long believed in that. In our first mandate, when we had a majority, I would have had the theoretical option of ramming through my preferred option for electoral reform and keeping the letter of that promise. But I also know when it comes to changing our electoral system, it shouldn't be any one party, even with the majority, that gets to decide how all future elections will be unfolded. So, out of respect for democracy, I believe we needed to create a consensus around that. Unfortunately, it became clear, despite years of efforts and a lot of work by many different people in the House, to try and come to a consensus. There was no clear consensus on how to change our electoral system for the better. And rather than risk Canadian democracy for the sake of ticking off a box in an electoral program, I said we're going to make sure we continue to work on building consensus. As I've said many times, including recently to Jagmeet, if they're willing to come to a consensus around improving our electoral system, I'm happy to revisit it any time, but it's not something any government should do all alone.
Next question.
Hi, Adam from CHH News. Can you touch on again Canada's role in the strikes in Yemen and the role going forward from this country?
Obviously, our military are better positioned, the Department of National Defense will be better positioned to answer details on that. But for Canada, it was extremely important, given the illegal and dangerous attacks on international shipping lanes, on civilian and commercial vessels. The international community had a responsibility to step up as laid out by UN Security Council resolutions, and we support the very targeted actions taken by military assets from the UK and the US.
What concerns, if any, do you have in being part of a coalition to go ahead and make these strikes?
Canada is a country that stands up for the international rules-based order, and the Houthis were endangering lives and livelihoods, not just of shipping in the region, but of people relying on the humanitarian supports, the commercial goods that are transiting through that extraordinarily important international waterway. Their actions could not continue, and that's why we supported the targeted actions to degrade their capacity to continue to put lives and livelihoods at risk in contravention of international law.
Next question.
Good morning, Matt Mead with Canadian Press. I want to follow up on the same topic. You're using kind of strong language condemning the actions of Houthis in Yemen, yet at the same time, Canada's role in these operations is very limited. Why is that?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
I'm just saying, like, why Canada's role in this operation led by the US in Yemen is very limited. You're saying Canada is not physically engaged in any military action. Why is that? Why Canada doesn't really take more?
We don't have the particular assets in the region. As I've said, members of the Canadian Armed Forces are within task groups working in the region, and we have contributed around sort of the planning and the overseeing of the operation. But the strikes were carried out by the UK and the US military.
I just want to follow up on the case that South Africa started at the ICJ. Would Canada support the ICJ findings if they side with South Africa?
As I've always said, we believe deeply in the international rules-based order, and we have about 5 different cases that we're involved in at the ICJ as we speak. So of course, we support the important, rigorous work done by the International Court of Justice.
Good morning. This is a question for our Bureau. A few days ago, you met with Toronto's top cop, and then protests were banned on Avenue Road. Did you say anything to the police about these protests?
I have had many ongoing conversations with community leaders, with municipal leaders, with police organizations, including the Chief of Police in Montreal before Christmas, on the importance of making sure that all Canadians feel safe in their country, in their communities. The right to protest is an important one in Canada that we will always defend and support. But we also need to be aware that rules and laws need to be enforced. However, the federal government doesn't have any direct line of command over decisions taken by the Ontario or the Toronto Police. I had a good conversation with the need to continue to protect all Canadians, whether it's through fighting Islamophobia or anti-Semitism, and I will continue to engage with partners right across the country.
Did you specifically express to Toronto's top cop that you would like to see the laws respected and abided by?
My job is to make sure that all Canadians are safe and feel safe across the country, and that is the conversation we had.
For our last
last question. We'll go back to Global for their follow-up.
Yeah, thank you very much. Mr. Prime Minister, just following up on a previous question about Canada's involvement in the airstrikes. And have you spoken to anyone in member of the opposition regarding this, particularly the NDP? They are saying that Canada should do more and act as a brake as opposed to being part of this action. Is Canada doing anything to slow it down?
I haven't seen anyone saying that attacks on commercial, civilian, and humanitarian cargoes in the Red Sea are a good thing. Canada has a responsibility to ensure that maritime traffic is safe, and we are going to continue to make sure we're doing everything we can to keep people safe and counter some of the escalations by the Houthis in the region, which are not good for anyone.
Thank you. This concludes